Part 3 on the origins of COVID-19. Hello, this is John Hnatio reporting for the Objective News Network. Welcome to this segment of our 5-part series on the origins of COVID-19. I would like to begin today with a word of caution. There are many conspiracy theories out there on the origins of COVID-19. But when you are thinking through a complicated issue resulting in the deaths of over 1 million Americans and over 6 million people worldwide, it is vitally important that the conclusions we reach be based on true facts and the logical analysis of what you actually know versus what you don't know. To do otherwise only serves to obfuscate the truth and may lead us to villainize innocent or the wrong people, or even worse, allow the clear and present danger of what is actually happening out there to go completely unnoticed. In this series, we are simply laying out the direct and circumstantial evidence as we know it, objectively analyze the evidence, and then let our audience, you, decide. Now, when you investigate something, you look at 2 types of evidence. Direct evidence is direct proof of a fact, such as testimony by a witness about what that witness personally saw, heard, or did. Circumstantial evidence is direct evidence of a fact from which a person may reasonably infer the existence or non-existence of another fact. The lack of direct evidence often leads to the rise of conspiracy theories based on incorrect information, a lack of awareness of all the facts, or the result of misinformation, or sometimes even intentional disinformation. Here at the Objective News Network, we use an advanced research tool called authentication. Authentication allows us to scan the internet quickly and easily for reliable sources that we use to support our stories. You can learn more about the power of authentication as an advanced research tool by visiting this URL. So let us begin with question number 1. The answer to question 1, was COVID-19 engineered at the Wuhan Institute of Virology using advanced genetic engineering, depends on the existence of several pieces of direct and circumstantial evidence. First, was the emergence of COVID-19 due to the natural evolution of the virus by animal to human transmission or by human genetic manipulation? While there is significant debate as to whether COVID-19 was created in the laboratory or occurred naturally, there exists no direct evidence either way. No host animal has been identified, but given the complexities of gene mutation, that is most likely a long shot anyway. We found using authentication no open source information providing any sort of direct evidence either way. We did, however, find much plausible circumstantial evidence supporting the notion that the People's Republic of China operates a covert biological weapons program, that the Russian Federation and China have close military relationships that include biological and other forms of warfare cooperation, and direct evidence that the United States has funded in the past, under the guise of peaceful scientific cooperation, Russian bioreparat research on the development of fast mutating incurable pathogens. Bioreparat is the name of several specific institutes in Russia that collectively represent the core of Russia's biological weapons program. We also found plausible data sets indicating the existence of direct evidence that the U.S., through the National Institutes of Health, NIH, also funded scientific dual-use research on potentially lethal, incurable, and fast-mutating pathogens at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Since we already know the State Department ISTC program, International Science and Technology Centers, has funded dual-use biotechnology projects in the past, we can reasonably infer that the ISTC program may have funded similar dual-use bioweapons work at the Wuhan Virology Institute. This we identify as an area that requires concerted future investigation. Past ISTC funding of incurable fast-mutating pathogens was accomplished via the Department of Energy's Los Alamos National Laboratory and Sandia National Laboratories at the behest of State Department and the Central Intelligence Agency. Another piece of circumstantial evidence is that the PRC has been uncooperative in joining international efforts to investigate the possibility that COVID-19 was the result of laboratory research being conducted at the Wuhan Virology Institute to genetically educate other COVID variants to produce either intentionally or unintentionally a new lethal, incurable, and fast-mutating pathogen designed for the purpose of killing human beings. Another important piece of direct evidence is the report requested from the U.S. intelligence community by President Biden that contains less than a full accounting of the possibility that the research work being done at the Wuhan Institute of Virology was funded by U.S. agencies. For example, the USIC fails to mention the National Institutes of Health funding of pathogens research at the Wuhan Virology Institute. In fact, there is direct evidence that State Department's International Science and Technology Center's ISTC program funded the Russian bioweapons program to produce incurable, fast-mutating pathogens. The Soviet and Russian bioweapons program is by far the largest and in many ways the most sophisticated bioweapons development program in the history of the world. Okay, now let's go on to assertion 2. The answer to question 2, if COVID-19 was genetically engineered, why would anyone do such a thing? Using authentication, we have found plausible evidence that the PRC investigated weaponizing coronavirus as far back as 2015, a full 4 years before the COVID-19 pandemic broke out in Wuhan, China. In 2015, 18 Chinese military scientists and weapons experts wrote a paper entitled, and I quote, "The Unnatural Origin of SARS, the New Species of Man-Made Viruses as Genetic Bioweapons," close quote. The Chinese military and their weapons scientists stated that a family of viruses called coronaviruses could be, and I quote, "artificially manipulated into an emerging human disease virus, then weaponized and unleashed in a way never seen before." This document, written a full 4 years before the pandemic began in Wuhan, China in December 2019, stands as a direct piece of evidence of PRC interest and motivation to genetically engineer a new class of lethal, fast-spreading, prophylaxis-resistant, and fast-mutating pathogens. In this case, the very same COVID-19 pathogen that first emerged in Wuhan, China. The document also highlighted how these engineered viruses would lead, and I quote, "to a new era of genetic weapons in which a bioweapon attack could cause, quote, the enemy's medical system to collapse," close quote. We found that the reporting is plausible and serves as an important piece of evidence in the matter of the origins of COVID-19, requiring concerted investigation. Yet, there was no mention of this document in the United States intelligence community report submitted to President Biden, in which he asked for all indications of possible PRC bioweapons development of COVID-19. Neither was there any mention of the close military connections between the PRC and the Russian Federation that may have led to the development of COVID-19, and the fact that the State Department's International Science and Technology Center's ISTC program funded programs with the Russian bioweapons infrastructure, Bioreparat laboratories, to conduct advanced research on developing lethal, fast mutating pathogens of SARS, measles, and other prophylaxis resistant pathogens capable of fast human-to-human transition. The proximity of a level 4 biological laboratory geographically situated in Wuhan, Hubei, China, is another piece of significant circumstantial evidence because it allows for the logical inference that the Wuhan Virology Institute was possibly serving as a dual-use research laboratory. On the one hand, working to develop new prophylaxis against otherwise lethal, fast mutating, and accelerated human-to-human transmission under U.S. research grants, while simultaneously using this research to mask or hide from view the bioweapons research going on there, is, in fact, a plausible inference. The unusual efforts of the Chinese to quell reports of certain Wuhan Virology Institute scientists attempting to report what they witnessed also represents compelling and plausible circumstantial evidence of dual-use research by the PRC at the Wuhan Level 4 Virology Institute that could have led to the intentional engineering of COVID-19 and a subsequent and likely accidental lab leak. The PRC's unwillingness and their highly unusual efforts to block a thorough investigation of the circumstances is also another plausible piece of circumstantial evidence that the PRC was involved in dual-use biological research at the Wuhan Virology Institute. That brings us to the conclusion of Part 3 of our series on the origins of COVID-19. Next time, we will address assertions 3, 4, and 5 as we bring all of the direct and circumstantial evidence for you to consider in Part 5. It is what it is for December 5th, 2022. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. This is John Hnatio reporting for the Objective News Network.